Esteemed colleagues and friends, please welcome Associate Professor of Art History and Director of African and African American Studies at George Mason University and the NAFSA President and Chair of the Board of Directors, LaNitra Berger.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give Center Stage Academy a round of applause. Wasn't that wonderful? I am thrilled to gather with all of you as the conference continues with today's plenary. I know everyone's been talking about it all week. I'm excited too. I hope you're sharing your enthusiasm, or my enthusiasm, for the week that we're having, and I'm willing to bet that some of you are new fans of go-go music and the Washington Nationals. Wasn't that incredible? Yes. So I want to start this afternoon's plenary with some gratitude. I want to give a special round of thanks to the NAFSA staff. They're the reason why we've had such an inspiring and impactful week. Give them a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. NAFSA staff works so hard year-round to plan the annual conference, and to stick with the baseball metaphors this year, they hit it out of the park. So let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you so much, thank you. I also want to thank Fanta for her leadership and for jumping in so quickly into the CEO role at NAFSA. Fanta is a true partner in this work, and I'm deeply grateful for her collaborative and can-do spirit, so thank you, Fanta. And finally, I want to send a special thank you to the NAFSA Board of Directors. Like many of you, the board members are volunteer leaders who give their time to NAFSA. This year, as we searched for a new leader while planning the 75th anniversary conference, I asked a lot from our board, and they delivered. Each person lent their time, their knowledge, and often just some words of encouragement as we shepherded the association into its next chapter. And they did all of this without complaining. So I am so grateful to the board, which I believe is the best board in the world. So thank you so very much. So I heard from a lot of you this week that Tuesday's plenary was inspiring and thought-provoking, and I agree with you. I was struck when Nadia Murad discussed how Iraqi invaders attempted to eliminate the Yazidis by erasing them from history textbooks. Does that sound familiar to anyone here in the US? She said that removing people from history makes it easier to commit violence against them. Does that sound familiar? Okay. As you've seen this week, there are clear connections between events that occur globally and locally. What's happening in Iraq is happening in Florida, or New York, or anywhere else in the United States. Inspiring an inclusive future means building the connection between the global and the local for our students and for ourselves. We cannot work to create a just and more peaceful world if we don't work towards justice and peace in our own communities. I came to this field determined to raise the voices of underrepresented students, scholars, and institutions who deserve a place at the table that Fanta mentioned on the first day. So let me tell you this, we're going to need a lot more tables and chairs at this gathering. In the remaining time that we have together this week, I call on each of you to think about what tangible steps you can take to lengthen your table and connect with people that you haven't in the past. If you haven't read it yet, my edited book, Social Justice and International Education, Research, Practice, and Perspectives, brings together some of the most innovative minds in the field to address these issues and to offer tangible, achievable solutions. It's still for sale in the bookstore if you want to pick it up. Now, I know some of you here, but not all of you at the conference. So before I introduce our fantastic and amazing plenary speaker, I'm going to share one quick story about my education abroad journey with you. So I'm an only child, I don't have siblings, and my parents were very protective of me. And both of my parents grew up in the segregated South, so they faced racial violence in their daily lives. The idea of traveling to another country for them seemed completely absurd. So in 2002, I moved to Germany. I lived in Berlin as an exchange student. And that year, I invited my mother to visit for Thanksgiving. She reluctantly agreed. It was only her second time leaving the country. I could sense the apprehension in her voice as we planned her visit. You see, my mom was a building inspector by profession, and she was one of the only Black women building inspectors in the country. So she took her job very seriously, and she knew the building codes in the United States by heart. So when we arrived in Berlin, I wanted to take her on a tour of the city and show her all the sights. But as we visited several of the most famous museums and churches, I could see her apprehension growing. So I said, "What's wrong?" And she pointed at the stairs, and she said, "These stairs are not properly spaced apart. They're not up to code. This is dangerous. Who do I call in Berlin to report this? And can you translate for me?" I said, "Mom, this building is several hundred years old, and it's still standing, so I think we'll be fine." But she refused to go in. So needless to say, we didn't see as much of Berlin as I had planned. But I saw the city through her eyes, full of dangerous, uneven staircases. What I learned from her visit after years of reflection was that each of our perspectives is shaped by a collection of personal experiences and historical narratives. As a Black woman, she was hypervigilant about almost everything. My mother was also bound by an ethical code and a commitment to excellence in her field. International education provides us with the opportunity to engage with people and ideas from multiple perspectives, to seek knowledge and gain understanding by inhabiting someone else's world, if only for a brief period of time. This type of learning often happens abroad, but if we do our work effectively, it will happen much more often at home as well.